All right, so I did it. I made orange, it was supposed to be jelly, but it's syrup. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Orange jam and orange marmalade. So let me tell you my experience with these and what I thought. So I've never made any orange anything canning wise. So this was a new experience for me. And I looked at a bunch of different recipes and kind of went with it. So let me tell you some of my thoughts on this. And before I get too far, in the video description is links to all three of these, the recipes that I did. So like I said, because I kind of adapted a little bit from what I read. But so let me tell you my thoughts. This was the first one I did. So the first one, I was trying an orange marmalade recipe. And I was like, this is new to me. I don't know if I've ever even tried orange marmalade before making these recipes. And it kind of weirded me out, the fact that it would have big chunks of the orange peel and orange everything. I was like, nobody's gonna wanna eat that. Why would you have that in a jam, right? So this was my first one. So what I did with these, I cooked I didn't know that citrus, like orange, lemons, limes, the pith, the white part, actually has natural pectin. So you technically don't have to use pectin because they will thicken up. It has its own pectin in it. Didn't know that till I started doing this. For the first batch, what you do to get that pectin out of it is you boil your slices, you do, I think it was, I did 8 oranges and 4 lemons, sliced up, put them in the water and boil them. And once they reach a boil, you boil it for a few minutes and then turn off the burner, put a lid on and let it sit overnight. So that extra time soaking overnight is kind of what helps pull the pectin out. Then the next day, oh, you add sugar, sorry. You add your sugar once it's boiling and then let it sit overnight. So then the next day you bring it up to a boil again. And this is where I had a hard time. You get it to a jelly stage. Now for this recipe, I could not for the life of me find anywhere. I'm like, what the heck is a jelly stage, a jelly temperature? How do I measure that? I've made candies. I can test softball, hard ball, hard crack. I can test all those, but jelly, I had no idea how to test it. I ended up finding later a recipe that said 220 degrees on your thermometer. That's all I needed to know. So there you have it. 220 degrees is the jelly temperature. That's what you want to cook it to. So I didn't know that. So the first batch, I cooked it till I let it boil for a little bit and cooked it. And then I went ahead and canned it, processed it. My altitude, I'm 5,500 feet in elevation, 5,500 above sea level. So for me, it was 10 minutes in a water bath canner. The next day, it was liquid. Like this is at least a little syrupy. Okay, you can't really tell in the picture, but it's a little syrupy. But no, it was like just liquid. So I ended up opening all the cans, the 12 jars that I did, and I added it to the next day's batch because I did a second batch overnight. And this time, I still at that point didn't have the temperature information. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna add pectin. So I ended up adding quite a bit of pectin to it, got it where it started to look thick. So I processed it and it still didn't set up. Now this is on me. I think I just needed to cook it a lot longer because I probably didn't cook it to the 220, and adding the pectin helped it thicken up a little bit. But I think I just didn't cook it long enough. So this is on me. Recipe would be fine, I think, if you cooked it. I was kind of weirded out by the chunks of the peel and stuff. So I strained those out and then just made it like an orange jelly, which this one ended up like an orange syrup. I'm not even sure what we'll use it for, maybe on pancakes over ice cream. I don't know. If you have any ideas how to use orange syrup, let me know. Okay, so then my next batch, I found a recipe that was like, yeah, you can just puree the oranges, peel the oranges, puree the part you would normally eat, and make a jam just like you normally would. So I did, And again, no pectin. So I just pureed the oranges, I added the sugar, and cooked it up, and that was really cool. It cooked up really well, didn't need to add pectin. Canned it, it was perfect, look at that, perfect jam consistency. And this is just like any other fruit jam. This was definitely the easiest. This didn't have to soak overnight, nothing. This was like start to finish, maybe 4 hours tops. Pretty easy. The only thing is I didn't get as much out of this recipe. So I think I only ended up with 4.5 pint jars. Whereas this one, especially because I had 2 batches technically of it, I think I ended up with like 14 pints or something of this syrup that now I got to figure out what to use it for. So there's that. Then last but not least, marmalade. I was like, all right, fine, I will try a marmalade. I'm going to try this again. I still had more oranges to use up because it's orange season. It's great. And that's why I wanted to try this experiment. I tried this method again, doing the peels. This time I put my peels through a mandolin slicer, so they were super, super thin. Cause that's just weird to me to bite into chunks. I don't know, that's weird. Who does that? But people do because it's all over. So all over on the internet. But I put them through my oranges and my lemons. I did basically the same recipe, and I did them through the mandolin slicer, so they were really thin. I boiled them and then added sugar, let them sit overnight. Then the next day for these, that's when I found the 220-degree little tip there that I had no idea and I couldn't find anywhere for the days before. So this time I watched it and I got it up to 220 degrees and I didn't add any pectin. And so once it was at 220 degrees, I canned it, and you can see like it's pretty firm. It's, I mean, it is pulling away a little bit from the jar there as I tilt it, but it's set up pretty well. So, and look at the color too, like cooking it a little longer, it went like this caramelized color. Flavor wise, I am not a fan, sad to say. My husband likes them. He really likes them. He's not sure about the big chunks. Excuse me. And this one, like he's like me, he thinks that's weird, and I totally think it's weird. So he's not a fan of that. But flavor wise, he loves these. All of them, he really digs the flavor. For me personally, this one has a really, really like vibrant, bright orange flavor, like very fresh orange flavor, where this one has a little more of a caramelization, caramely type flavor. And that's because it was cooked up longer, right? And that's essentially what it did. It did caramelize the sugar a little more. So this one has more of a caramely flavor added to the orange, where this is like very fresh, vibrant orange. And this is like the fresh, vibrant orange as well. For me personally, I didn't care for, because you do have the pith, the white part, that's the bitter part of the orange, and that's cooked in because that's the part that has the pectin, right? So that's cooked into these. I didn't really care for that because that adds just a tinge of bitterness. And for me, it takes away from the sweet of a jam or jelly. When you're having that, like you're supposed to be sweet, right? And having the white parts, it gives a little bit of a bitter aftertaste kind of, which my husband loves because he's like, that's why I love, because it's not so sweet. It's not as sweet. And I'm like, you're crazy. It's jam. It's supposed to be sweet. So if you don't care for things super, super sweet, you probably really love this. If you want it fresh tasting or caramelized, or if you want the syrup, this is kind of the oops mistake. But there you go. Again, the recipes for all 3 of these are on my blog. I'll put the links down below. So if you try these, let me know. Or if you think of any uses for this orange syrup, let me know, because I've got like buco jars of it now. I got to figure out something to do with it. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Remember, like and subscribe, and watch for my other videos here on canning and food storage and freeze drying and kids and homeschool and all that fun stuff.